Okay, we're going to continue on with this character here, and the piece that we're going to be working on this time is this armor piece that goes over the chest and the back portion of the character here as well. So again, just like the other projects, because we're doing box modeling, we're going to start off with a primitive. We're going to go to create polygon primitives and use a cube. And in the other videos, I've been using something that's just really small. So let's bump that up just a little bit. Let's make this like 20 by 20 by 20, and we can keep the divisions. We know that we probably want to split going down the depth and the width and the height of this thing. So let's go ahead and hit create. And you can see we're already setting ourselves up a little bit quicker than what we've done in the past. And we can just move this thing up using the move tool here. And I'll push this into place like this. And let's go to the side. And let's kind of angle this thing. It looks like, to me, you can see this kind of angle going on here, and we'll just go ahead and scale this thing up a little bit right in here, scale it out this way a little bit, and move it like this, and we're starting to get pretty good here. Let's scale it this way a little bit, and we do have this split going down the middle of it. We can delete half of that thing away, so let's just go ahead and select F11 for our faces, select this part like that, and if you need to check it, tap 4 just to make sure you don't have any extra faces that were kind of not visible to you like that. I can take away by holding down Control and dragging on there. Let's hit backspace, and now we've got this portion of the model. So the other thing is I don't need the bottom part. That's going to be open for us. And if we think about this, we don't need probably these here either. So we'll tap 5 and accidentally grab that back part. Let's hit backspace on there. So you can see now we're starting to get this shell for things. We'll tap F8. I'm going to delete the history, Alt-Shift-D for deleting the history. And then let's give it a name. So call this chest cover. And I'll give it _L for left side. And then again, because we're going to mirror this across as a negative instance, we want to get rid of all this scale information and this translation information and rotation information. So that's pretty easy. Just going to go to modify, freeze transformations. I'll go to the option box, make sure we're freezing all translation, rotation, and scale. Hit apply like that. Okay. And then we can go to modify reset transformations to get their pivot point down to the origin of the world. Now we'll go into object mode, just hit F8, and you should be very familiar with this process already. Duplicate special, option box, we'll do a negative instance and a negative scale of 1 in X. Hit apply, and then now we've got the beginnings of the shape of this thing. Okay, so let's go to the front. And again, what we said before is if we want to start getting any kind of shape to things, we're going to have to add some geometry to start introducing some rounding. Now we do have enough geo in here to where we could select maybe like this edge and this edge, and we could move it in this direction. And you can see we're starting to build up some curvature here. There's not much because there's not much geometry to work with. We could do the same thing with the back here as well. So if we want to pull this in just ever so slightly like that and move it forward, we could do that. And we're starting to build some curvature. Let's turn off the grid just because I think we're going to be looking at it at angles like this quite a bit. We also have, if I tap 4 and we can see wireframe mode, we've got these points in the middle and then the back that I think we can drag out, and we can start to give the shape for maybe where the neck would be on this character, like this. And we do have everything put in these groups, so if we need to hide the shoulder pads, the gear that we put for that, we can just select that group and hit Control H should hide that. And that way we're kind of just working with this thing now at this point. So if I select this edge here, F10, I can push this out a little bit and maybe push this out a bit so we can kind of see a little bit more of what's going on. And we're trying to think about how this thing will actually wrap around the body. So move this up a little bit. We'll go to the front view. So all this stuff is actually hidden underneath the shoulder piece that we've got going on here. So we're going to have to imagine where some of this stuff sits and use our best guess for that. So if I were to believe that the body continued on here, maybe the shoulder sits somewhere around here. So this thing's probably going to be up around the shoulder of this character, right around in here. So sometimes you might get a modeling template that is actually what is considered like a naked version of the character, so there's no gear on it, and that makes it a little bit easier to kind of know where maybe gear is actually going to sit. But if you're been given a piece of concept like this, you're going to have to make your own decisions as to exactly maybe where the anatomy of this thing sits for that creature or that character. So we're going to go to F8, and then we're going to use that tool that we looked at for inserting edge loops. So shift right click and insert edge loop tool. We'll just drag a insert here. Let's do one here, and we need a little more geo here and here as well. And I think we can add one here right now, and that'll give us enough points to start manipulating and playing around with. So now you can see we've got a lot more geo to work with. You want to kind of work in these stages where you make things a little more manageable for yourself. You don't want to get too much geometry too quickly. If you do, then you've got a lot more points to work with. Obviously you can build more complex shapes that way, but you might make your work a bit tougher for yourself as well. So I'm just going to keep moving these points and start to build some of this curvature. Again, what I told you is that the danger of working the way that we're working currently is that we're only in one view currently, and we'll get everything looking really nice from this one view, and we'll think we've done some really good stuff, and then we'll go check this in 3D, and things will be quite a bit different, and we're probably going to have to do some work to make sure everything is actually good and making sense. But for now, if you know you've got everything kind of working in one view like this on the side, then it might just be a matter of taking these points and then pushing them along this one axis, which is the X axis here. So now we've got these points, and I can kind of make them conform a little bit closer to the body. And this is going to be a little bit of push and pull between what do we need to do for this piece and then fixing up the body. So as we get more pieces, they start to interact with each other, and you start to get a little bit more information from each piece and how they interact with the other pieces that you're creating. So this is going to be a natural process of you having to constantly tweak the work, and if this part is done up here, it's not really done, it's just waiting for the next stage to get more information, and that might have to be tweaked. So don't think you're going to get everything done in one shot. It's not going to work that way. So it's going to pull these out just a little bit more, and look from the side that I actually needed maybe some geometry running up and through here. So it looked like we could append a polygon to this area. So object mode, shift, right click, append a polygon tool, and we could just add a piece here like that, and then maybe we'll use the multi-cut tool. Shift, right click, multi-cut tool. We'll just go from here to here, something like that. Put an F9 to put it on our verts so we can start tweaking these shapes. And you can see like what's been drawn here in the concept is that there's actually a shape right here. We have this under part. We could build everything together as if it's one piece and then separate it, or we could build them in sections. And I think I'm going to treat this all as one piece for now, and then I'll build a ridge along here and probably separate these things. So there's different methods of how you could probably work to get there, so it's kind of up to you, but when you're first starting off, it's going to be kind of difficult for you to know maybe how you should approach things, and there's not a 100% right or wrong way of doing it. It's just maybe some ways are a little bit quicker than others. So like I said, I think I'm going to be keeping everything together and then maybe splitting it apart. And so what I need is a little more geo going through here. So I got this, and then I need something to represent this shape, which would be using the multi-cut tool. Go in the object mode, shift right click, multi-cut, and I'll go here and here for now. So that'll be at least the start of that. The other thing is I need some more geo here, so I'll use the append to polygon tool, shift right click in object mode, append to polygon tool, click here, and I'm going to move up around this thing, then maybe draw a piece here like that, and then I need to finish that shape off with the multi-cut tool. So here's some, because we're working in that view, we've got some crazy stuff going on, and it just kind of took that point and shot it across the x-axis, but we can quickly move that thing over. It's not that big of a deal. And we'll push these points around like this a little bit more. And we'll use that multi-cut tool, F8, object mode, shift right click, multi-cut tool. And let's drag here to here. And I just got the newest version of my 2015 extension 1, and they put this little thing in here. I know in the earlier videos for the multi-cut tool is hitting enter. I can still hit enter, but now I can hit G or Y for last tool or last command. So that's kind of, I'm used to working that way, and I think I called that out in an earlier video that I was used to working that way, and I was missing that, so they did fix that. So that's pretty cool. So I just want to call that out, that is a possibility if you're using the latest and greatest version of Maya for extension 1 in 2015. So I'm going to move this point here like this, and then now you can see I've got a big chunk of my neck missing under here. So let's hit F8. I'm going to delete history because we're getting a pretty big stack of history on there that I don't need. And I'm going to use the multi-cut tool, shift right click, multi-cut tool, and then this time I only want just a point in here, so you can just, I'll hit backspace. You can click and drag anywhere on the line. If you hold down shift, it snaps to 25 degrees, 50, 75. So it's right there in the middle, and if I just hit enter, it'll complete that point. It doesn't look like anything happened, but if I put it on F9 for verts, right here like this, right click, say vertex, you can see I've got just a point to work with now. So now I can take that point and just go hold down X and turn on grid snapping temporarily and move this thing down, and you can see I've got that new point that I can just push over here. Now it's giving me the situation where I can put some geo coming down through here. So I'll go F8 again, shift right click to get to that multi-cut tool, and now I'll drag from here. And you might want to try this out too. Like instead of going here, 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 I'll hit backspace to go back. I can just drag all the way down to this bottom edge and hit enter, and it'll make the geometry going all the way through. So that comes in handy sometimes as well. So now we've got these points to work with. I'll move them around. Remember, anytime that we are creating geometry, there should be some reason for it, and it should help us with our shape and to further refine the shape and get the curvature that we're looking for in things. So again, it's just started off as a box, and here we are, and we're starting to get some pretty nice curvature and some nice shape to things. And we're definitely going to have to address the back of this character. So let's shore up the front first, and then that way we can turn off this image plane, and then we can start working with the back a little bit. So let's go to the front and take a look at some of the stuff that we've got made for this thing, and it still feels like it's pretty thick through here. So maybe we want something like this. I'll tap 5 just to see our shaded mode, so I can know exactly what it is that I'm actually working with. So tap 4 like this, tap 5, then 4. And so this is what I'm working with here. We'll pull this in just a little bit. I'll angle that down just a little bit. I'll tap 4 so I can see through this thing again. And let's see. So it's just going to be me keep going back between 4 and 5 so I can see that image and know what geometry I'm selecting. So I want this thing to follow this shape that you see here. So I'll select this, tap 4, hit 5. This is my next point over, tap 4, like that. Okay, and some of these points need to be pulled in a bit, like that, to build some tapering for the waist. Now let's check this from the side view, because you know, I was taking those points and following that drawing from the front, but maybe this needs to line up with the side view a little bit more. So I think in this area, obviously right in here, the side view is more important than the front. In the front, maybe this portion is a bit more important on the drawing. So you gotta choose between the drawings what's probably going to give you the best information for creating your model. And as time goes on and you do this process more and more, you'll just start to get a little bit more familiar with the process and just start instinctively knowing when and where to switch from what piece of reference to get you the information that you need. Okay, so let's see here. So I think we're getting pretty good here. I'm gonna tap F8, delete the history. We're gonna go to normal, soften edge, harden edge, and just look at it this way. And I showed you in the earlier video, we can actually shift right click, we can soften the edge on that, and then we could just go up here to our views properties and then just do flat shade all, and that way I can kind of see both methods pretty easily. So I think that's starting to look pretty good like that. And now we're going to hide the front image plane, Control H, and my back image plane, I'm going to show that. This time for my orthographic view, instead of having the front view, I'm going to choose that back camera like that. And then now if we tap 5, we can start to see the geo that we've made for this. So I'll tap F9 to get my vert right in here, because I think this is a problem right in this area. So I'll tap 4 so I can see my drawing. And this armor piece is actually supposed to come all the way up to about here. So I'll hold down X and turn on my snap to grid right there in that part. Tap 5, and you can see what we've built here. So tap 4, and it looks like I've got that same kind of ridge that's on the front. There's a ridge built up on the back. See this part of this shape here? This is the armor piece, and then we've got this little under armor piece thing going down here. And it's kind of hard to see because it's got the backpack going on there. Let's tap 5 so we can see our geo, and see this is that's where it was confusing. Whenever I was looking through wireframe, I actually picked the front part of the model, so that's why I keep switching back and forth here. So tap 4. This should actually go up about here, and this is going to go right about there. And because I've moved those points, that means I've got a little bit more information here to judge about these points and where those points should be pushed. So let's go to the side view. And I think that's working much better now. Like that. Okay, so now I think because we've got this shape kind of roughed out, we can start to maybe split apart some of these things a little bit more. So I'm going to go F8, use that multi-cut tool, shift right click, multi-cut, and go from here to here like that. And then go to our face mode, Q so I can select. And I'm going to select these faces, holding down shift like that, and then just get rid of them. And so that works pretty good there. I think I'm going to also add, oops, sorry, I'm not pushing the right buttons over here. Shift, right click, multi-cut tool, and then I'm going to split all the way through here like that. Hit enter. And on this one, we'll go here like that. Go around the model. And I want to take these points here. If we go to the modeling toolkit, it's possible that we could go to vertex, select these, shift right click and say merge vertices to center. That's a possibility. Or their new tool, the target weld, you can click a point and move it over the top of another point and it'll weld those 2 points together. Same thing for like that. So depending on how you want to work, you could use these tools here, or you could use the other method that we've looked at quite a bit. So there's going to be multiple ways of doing maybe the same operation. So I'm going to pull these in just a bit like this. Because I'm going to build a ridge and a thickness for this armor piece. I'll push that in a little bit. You can see, depending on the angle of what I'm looking at, if I push this in this way, then it starts to build that ridge. And I'm building by hand some of that thickness that you see here. So we've got that. Then this probably needs to be pushed back and pushed in. We'll push that in. And it all depends on, which direction that you really need to push it in. It all depends on where that point sits on the model and kind of your vantage point that you're looking at as well. So I'll push that in. And then now, I think I was trying to keep this thing together, but I'm almost think I'm at the point where I want to separate some of this stuff. But I'm going to look here real quick and just make sure that, again, that this is matching up the drawing for the most part from the back. I think it's working okay. It's not fantastic, but we are getting closer. And now I can make sure that this roundness part feels a bit better. Like that. So a lot of this is just you're going to have to keep evaluating the work that you're doing and judging the curvature of things. And the curvature is really just all about the shape that you're producing. So you're going to do a lot of evaluation for shape and flow of, they consider it like the flow of your geometry, the edge flow, which I'm not super concerned about that right now. I'm more concerned about the shape. Once you have the shape done and you know the shape works okay, then maybe you can fix up geometry a little bit more then. And when you're really good at the modeling stuff and you get a bit more advanced, you're kind of working on shape and the edge flow and the quality of the model. You're working on all those things kind of simultaneously, and you kind of stop thinking about things quite so much. But you know, at the very beginning, you are going to be having to keep a lot in mind while you're making your stuff. So I was pushing that here like that. And we are getting closer. I can take this. Let's see if I do the multi-cut tool, shift right click multi-cut tool. I'm going to try to what they consider like turning an edge. Go here like this. Then this would be a quad, and I'm going to get rid of some of this geometry after I get done with this. So I'm basically trying to make this kind of curve around like this, and so I can get rid of this part here, just select those edges, and then right click, go to verts, oops, right click and say vertex, and just hit backspace to get rid of that portion there. So it is possible that you can see I've got this thing, it's really a quad split into a triangle, and I could do this with the multi-cut tool. I could go here like that, and that turns this into a quad, but then I have to take this geo and run it down like this. So when I select this edge, get rid of that, this edge, get rid of that, and let's use that target weld real quick. And you can weld edges, so I got to be careful that I'm choosing point on here. Nope. It keeps wanting to grab an edge. So I don't know. Let's just do F9. Let's just select this and this. Shift right click, merge vertices to center. So sometimes tools work out great, and sometimes you fight with them more than what you actually use them. So just find one that works well for you. And you can see I'm using these little planes here. I only want to move in X and Y. So this little plane lets me move in just those axes, and I don't have to worry about pushing things forward or backwards. The other thing that's kind of nice for this stage is using those soft mod movements. So if we tap B and click and drag while holding B left and right, you can interactively change the fall off of that. So again, you can turn it on and off by hitting B. If you hold down B while it's on, click and drag left and right to change this, to change that fall off. And then we can just take these points and you can move the whole thing as a group pretty quickly. So it's almost like you're got some digital clay and you're kind of sculpting a little bit more with this thing, which I enjoy that process. I like to feel like I'm sculpting a little bit more than just building each one of these faces up. But tap F8 and we'll select, let me turn that off, that soft selection, tap B. So it's going to hold down shift and select this part and convert those. So it's converting edges to verts, control F9 will do that for us, and hold down X, and then we can snap to the center. So because we were using that soft mod tool, it kind of, you know, got some things off centered here like that. So I think the next part, because this video is running about 30 minutes already, I'm going to go ahead and put this in time-lapse mode, but I don't think there should be anything more that I'm going to do to this that you haven't already seen. I can select this edge all the way to here. Maybe extrude this, and that'll be the last thing that I do onto this before I start putting in time lapse and just kind of tweaking on it a little bit more. So extrude edge, take it off local space and put it in world by hitting that little icon and pushing it in like this, and then scaling this thing down to give the thickness on here. Okay, you can see through the time-lapse video that a big tool that I was using a lot was the soft modification tool, and that's you know, you just select a vert or an edge or a face, tap the B key, and then you can hold down B and interactively drag left or right the size of the fall off on that. And I had to use that quite a bit with this shape here for the head, and then the shoulder pieces. I didn't want to tweak those too much. I did want to pull these forward a little bit to interact with the chest armor, but this needed to be fit underneath the bottom of this, so it's just a matter of kind of taking these things and moving them around a little bit and making sure it's fitting with everything else. So it's still not a perfect fit, but everything's starting to work pretty good together. And again, I'm taking a look at the poly count that I've got. So if I select the head that I currently have, both sides, the shoulder pieces, and this new chest piece, I'm at about a little under 2,000 triangles for this thing. So not too bad. Again, don't want to go too high with things, so keeping it fairly simple. And then always make sure that you are saving your latest and greatest version file, save as, and then I'm going to give it a number extension. I've already saved this off. The previous version was 005 for me, so this is going to be 006. I'll save this, and we're done with this section. I think the next part that we'll tackle is the arms, which are just kind of some cylinder shapes, but we'll go over that. And I think as things get going, we're going to go a lot quicker on things, and probably just explain some things at the very beginning, do some time-lapse videos, and then you can just kind of see the modeling that way. Just note about the time-lapse videos. Anytime you want to get an idea of maybe what that tool was, I know it goes by very quickly, but the videos, if you get it in the format that I'm kicking out, which would be like an MP4 or something like that, you should be able to pause the video and then go frame by frame. So if you are trying to find out what tool was used when, you can do it that way. But I'm trying to do the best that I can to make sure that I don't introduce any new tools that you haven't learned from me talking to you. So as long as you're paying attention in the video portion where it's talking, you'll be able to know what's going on by the time we hit the time-lapse video part.